First of all, I would like to say I feel very impressed and honored to be sitting next to such prestigious speakers. So I will do my best. And I also wanted to thank you, the Journalists and Writers Foundation, for inviting me. So today I would like to talk to you about the law and how we can use the law, and especially pro bono lawyers, to achieve the SDGs, and especially SDG 16. So I'm a lawyer, and I've always wanted to be a lawyer, not only to make sure that human rights are respected, but also because I truly think that the law can be used to change the world, basically. So, first of all, let me introduce you the Thomson Reuters Foundation. So the Thomson Reuters Foundation is the philanthropic arm of the Thomson Reuters, which is a news and media company, as you may know. It was founded in 1984. We have 100 staff in 17 countries. And what we do is that we act to promote media freedom, we raise awareness of human rights, and we support initiatives to strengthen inclusive economies. And how we do that? We have different programs. So first of all, we have, my slide should be working. It's okay. We have an amazing team of journalists across the globe who are reported on what we call underreported news, which are basically news that you won't read in the mainstream media. So for example, women's rights and land rights, modern slavery, human trafficking, the human impact of climate change. And these journalists are not only writing on very important topics, but they are also having an impact. So to give you an example, in 2016, we had a team of journalists who went to India to investigate on children's deaths who were working in mica mines. So you know mica is this mineral that is being used in makeup, for example, this shiny thing that you have in makeup. And these children were working in these mines, and so child labor, forced labor, and many of them were dying because of that. So this team of journalists went to India, and as a result of this investigation, the Indian government decided to look into that issue. So they launched a survey because they wanted to know how many children were concerned. And the private sector decided to look into that, because if you're a company and you're making makeup, you want to take actions. So that's an example of how this kind of journalism is really having an impact on human rights issues. We also have what we call a media development team. So basically, we have a team of journalists traveling across the globe to train other journalists. So they train these journalists to make sure that they are reporting in an impartial way and in a free way. So they will train them on the topics that I mentioned before: human trafficking, climate change, equality, gender equality, discrimination. And finally, we have our legal pro bono program, which I am managing in North America and the Caribbean, so Trust Law, which is a global pro bono program. And what we do is that we support organizations, NGOs, non-profits, but also social enterprises by connecting them with lawyers who are going to work for free. And it's pretty amazing, because the fact that these organizations do not have to worry about paying for an attorney, which can be really expensive, especially in the US, will really enable them to focus on their mission, and which will also allow them to achieve a greater impact. But it's also very important because the organizations that we are working with are very small organizations, and most of the time they don't have in-house legal counsel, and they don't have any legal awareness. So, for example, if you take an example of organizations that is addressing the issue of access to water. Access to water is a human right, but as we know, millions of people do not have access to water. So we work with social entrepreneurs in countries who are basically creating invention to enable people to have access to water. If they don't protect that invention, if they don't have access to lawyers who are going to help them protect the intellectual property rights, they won't be able to reach out to these communities. So we really think that having access to this pro bono legal assistance is a great way to achieve a greater impact. But pro bono legal assistance is also very important when you think in terms of advocacy. We are working with non-profits, grassroots organizations, big NGOs who are engaging in advocacy work. And basically, what they are doing is trying to change the laws in countries where women's rights are not respected. So what we do is that we connect them with one law firm, 20 law firms, depending on the project. These lawyers will review the laws of specific countries. They will highlight the best practices, or on the contrary, they will highlight legal loopholes. And then, with this legal research in their possession, they will advocate to the government and say, look, this neighboring country has changed the laws to make sure that women's rights are protected, you can do it too. So we really think that giving them access to these lawyers is a great way to achieve that. And when you think of the rule of law, it's all the more important to have access to this legal assistance. I wanted to give you a few examples. So first of all, 3 years ago, we supported the Committee to Protect the Journalists. They were reviewing what we call the defamation laws in the Americas. And as you probably know, defamation laws means that a journalist is going to be prosecuted in a criminal court, just because he exercised his right of expression, freedom of expression. So we had a team of lawyers who reviewed the laws of different countries in the Americas and highlighted, as I said, best practices to make sure that journalists are protected from criminal prosecution when they are just basically doing their job. I also wanted to give you an example in Uganda. We supported a non-profit called the Sudur Development Agency, which is also working in the area of the rule of law, strengthening participatory democratic processes, protecting human rights. And we help them with what we call a Know Your Rights guide for people who have been displaced as a result of the conflict. And when these people return to their lands, they just found out that they had been victims of land grabbing. So these people came to us and they asked us to put them in contact with Ugandan lawyers, not only to explain them what were their rights, but also to explain them how they could access to justice and get compensation. We also supported an amazing organization called the International Development Law Organization. They are based in the Netherlands. And they came to us because they are looking into the issue of sexual and gender-based violence in several countries. But this time they had a focus on Somalia. And what they explained to us is that sexual and gender-based violence crimes such as rape, female genital mutilation are not prosecuted in criminal courts because of a lack of formal judicial institutions. So we put them in contact with several law firms, and both international law firms and local law firms, to review not only the law but also the case law in several countries and see how these crimes were prosecuted. And what they are going to achieve with this legal research is going into these countries and train the judges, the prosecutors, the lawyers to make sure that these crimes are properly prosecuted and that women's rights are respected. And my last example, if I have time, is an example from Argentina. It's an organization called, excuse my accent, Asociación Civil por la Igualdad y la Justicia. Which, still in the area of the rule of law, contacted us because they are tackling what we call tax secrecy. And as you may know, tax secrecy often leads to corruption, but it's also like a violation of the right to access public information. So they contacted us because they wanted, once again, to have a comparative study of the laws on tax secrecy. And they wanted, for example, us to review the laws of some Nordic countries, which are the best practices on the topic. And thanks to that, they are going to advocate with the Argentinian government to make sure that these laws are amended and that human rights are respected. So yeah, that's, I'm sorry I'm late, but thank you so much for your attention, and yeah, thank you.